What's going on, y'all? Thanks for checking in the Khaliis Take. You know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell just so you can get the newest and the bonus content first. But hey, let's just go ahead and jump right in. So far, these NBA playoffs have been very interesting, very weird, and just very over the top in some of the series so far, just due to injuries and things like that. But definitely I would say the NBA playoffs are different without either LA team there, and I mean the Lakers or the Clippers. Of course, the state of California, we still have the Warriors in there. You know what I'm saying? So Cali isn't completely dead or anything like that, but it's definitely a lot different without either LA team in there or both LA teams in there, the Clippers and Lakers, because it would definitely make the playoffs a lot more interesting having LeBron and Kawhi Leonard in there, just because those two are juggernauts, just because those two can really fill up a stat sheet. And, two superstars that the NBA, I feel like, misses when neither one of them are playing. Arguably, both top 5 players in the league, and definitely both LA teams have a stream of popularity that a lot of other teams don't have. You know what I'm saying? Anybody would probably replace the Denver Nuggets and throw them out of the playoffs to put the Lakers ahead of them and put them in the playoffs. You see what I'm saying? Just going on, who people will want to see more in regards to, selling more tickets not even just that, just more popularity. You know what I'm saying? LeBron James is more popular than anybody in the NBA. The Lakers are more of a popular team than the Denver Nuggets. I mean, you can take a team like the Pelicans out or the Denver Nuggets and put a team like the Clippers in, and it would be more exciting to watch, because if hypothetically, let's say the Warriors had to play the Clippers in a 7-game series, that would be more interesting to me. I just think it would, regardless. Just my opinion. But I'm not saying take teams out to put the Lakers and Clippers in. I'm just saying if the Lakers and Clippers were in the playoffs, it definitely would be a whole lot more interesting, whole lot more spicier, just based upon having those two superstars there who belong to be there and stuff like that. And who would make the NBA playoffs a little bit more interesting just to watch in regards to like a 7-game series. But of course it didn't happen, so there's nothing we can do too much about that. But it does feel different because, at some point when you think about the playoffs, you think either at least one of the LA teams should at least be there, because one of them, both teams really, if they were healthy, would be there for one. And both teams, if they were healthy, they would give the Warriors and, teams like Memphis, they would give them a real run. They would give them a run, for their money as well. Even though Minnesota is doing really good against Memphis right now, that's kind of a toss-up. Definitely, not too surprising there, but, somewhat a little bit. But my point is, hopefully this definitely can happen next season. Both of these teams, whether you're a Lakers fan or a Clippers fan, either one, both teams need to make the playoffs next year, and I believe they will, of course, especially the Clippers. I think, getting Kawhi back and everything, they'll definitely be motivated to not only make a run to the playoffs, but make a run to a championship. I've said before, this team is really built for a championship. This team has a lot of the players to do a lot of good things, and I think they're definitely the most well-rounded, scariest team in the NBA when you think about it, because the Clippers have excellent role players from what we saw this year, carrying that team without neither one of their superstars, making it to a play-in tournament, almost actually gaining a playoff spot, because there was at one point they were only a few games, like 3 or 4 games behind the Denver Nuggets for the 6th seed. So at one point they were really actually fighting to, possibly get that seed. And then all of a sudden Ty Lue, pulls Reggie Jackson, a couple players, and made them, rest for a game or two or something like that. And then it just threw off the Clippers' momentum, which I thought that was Ty Lue's fault. By doing that, you don't throw off a team's rhythm like that. You try to get the best out of a season that you can. Go for the 6th seed. Don't even put yourself yourself in the play-in tournament unless you absolutely have to go there. And they did, and that's where they messed up at, because if they would have fought for that 6th seed, maybe they would have got it, maybe they wouldn't have, but I just feel like they kind of gave up on it after Ty Lue started sitting players for a couple of games when there was only a couple of games behind the 6th seed, to grab it. I thought that was really dumb, but I mean, you see dumb things put you in dumb situations. So you got into the play-in tournament, you had 2 chances. Paul George couldn't help deliver against the Minnesota Timberwolves. You threw up on that one, and then the second one, Paul George gets COVID all of a sudden, so you couldn't count on him being there or anything like that. You couldn't count on Paul George, delivering against Minnesota, as I said. So this is why I said go for it all sometime. Don't sit there and try to just, let things go by. Oh, well, we can start resting players now. We'll at least be in the play-in tournament. No, go for it all. If you got a chance to make the playoffs, go for that. It's stupid to settle for something when you can go for something higher. And I feel like that's where Ty Lue might have actually, altered their season a little bit, because I think he rested Reggie Jackson those 1 or 2 games and Luke Kennard, and that's like 2 of their best players at that time, because they helped them get to where they were without Kawhi and PG throughout that season to maintain somewhat of the play-in tournament spot and possibly have an opportunity to get that final playoff spot. So it was just really just little things like that came back to haunt them. And of course the injuries, you can't overcome injuries. The Clippers have been the most injured team in the last couple of years. So, their opportunity of winning championship is getting very slim. It's not closed yet. The window isn't closed yet, but it's almost closed. So this year coming up, they'll definitely make the playoffs, of course, but it's definitely time for them to win a championship, because I think if they don't win it this year, I don't think they're going to win it going forward, just based upon, not having the same players probably after this year. Probably going to be more changes, in the lineups and stuff like that. So, this is the year for them to win it to me. So if they don't, I don't know what to say for them after that, but it's going to be even tougher in going after a championship the following season, not even knowing who's going to be on your roster and, how different it's going to look or how much the same it might look, So, like I said, definitely next season, they'll definitely, be the team they need to be. I believe they stay healthy, and I think they'll be able to take it the distance if they're able to, just build that chemistry the way they need to, and because they got a well-rounded team, and like I said, they're definitely the scariest team in the NBA. If they add a point guard and maybe another big man, I don't really see anybody that can contend with them, honestly. But we'll see how their season pans out next year. And as far as the Lakers, they definitely had a very, very peculiar season. They had 3 superstars, 3 top 75 players, and you couldn't even make a play-in tournament. Very pathetic, very piss poor basketball, very, very embarrassing type basketball they put out there. I mean, they could have been a lot better. LeBron James played swell, though. He played good. He played well, throughout the whole season for the most part, averaging the points he did. But really, when you think about it, it was an individual award basically for him for playing well, because it didn't amount to the team winning. It's all about team when you're trying to win a championship. It's not about one guy. And LeBron knows that, but his individual efforts just wasn't good enough. It doesn't matter how many points he put up, 32, 33 points a game. That's all fictitious, because it didn't amount to anything. If it doesn't amount to anything, it doesn't matter what you're doing. So, I mean, LeBron definitely takes the onus for that, but no Anthony Davis hardly, which is expected. The Lakers can't keep making that excuse. Oh, we had Anthony Davis. And, a lot of Lakers fans say, oh, well, if Anthony Davis was healthy, well, when is he ever healthy? I mean, you got to stop sitting here talking about when and if and all this other stuff. I mean, yeah, we could talk about that with any team in NBA. You know what I'm saying? I just said it about the Clippers. I just said if the Clippers are healthy, they're arguably one of the best, scariest teams in the NBA if they're healthy. But that's the problem. When are they going to be healthy? Are they going to be healthy? Is it really going to happen? That's why their window of opportunity of winning a championship is closing, because of health issues. They can't stay healthy for some reason. So that, declines them of winning championships if they can't do so. And the same thing with the Lakers. Anthony Davis is injury prone. He always will be. He's probably never going to change anytime soon. He's been that way since he's been in the NBA. So I don't see him changing no time soon. He's getting older rather than younger. So Not saying he's old now, but I'm just saying you age more as you go. You don't age less as you go. So if he's injury prone in his 20s, he's definitely going to be injury prone in his mid to late 30s. I mean, it's not going to change anytime soon. He's just a clumsy type guy. And Russell Westbrook is just found somewhere in the middle. He's still a decent player to really, really good player, but he just doesn't really fit with what the Lakers are trying to do because they're trying to win. They're not trying to look at the end of the night, the stat sheet, and see who had the best game and who the player of the game is. That's not what the Lakers are about. They're about winning championships. And that's not something that Russell Westbrook is about because he's never won one and doesn't look like he's going to win one anytime soon because his basketball IQ is the size of a peanut and he just doesn't seem to understand situational basketball, and he's just not that great of a player. He's great in regards of what he's done, but averaging triple doubles, half that was fraud anyway, because when I can remember on OKC, Steven Adams was letting him get a lot of those rebounds just so he can acquire and get a triple-double just so he can break the record. So if somebody's letting you get rebounds or giving you opportunity to get rebounds and they're not taking it and they're allowing you to get the record and allowing you to get that type of accolade, that's fine, but it's fraud because it didn't help them win anything. They didn't get to an NBA Finals since Kevin Durant left. And Russell Westbrook is not going back to an NBA Finals probably without Kevin Durant because LeBron's too old and Anthony Davis is too injury prone. So unless one of those things changes, unless Anthony Davis is going to be more healthy going forward and, LeBron can take a back seat or, the passenger seat and let Anthony Davis take over, that might be the only way they might be able to get far. But I still think if they're all healthy enough, though, that I still think they'll make the playoffs going into the next season. I feel like they'll have some more to prove. And I feel like whatever, coach they decide to pick up is going to upgrade them a little bit as well. So, I mean, that definitely could help. I definitely think they'll at least make the play-in tournament next year, bare minimum, if anything, which is playoffs for them because they didn't even make the play-in tournament this year. So I definitely think they'll do a little bit better next season. But they're a team built for championship or bust, just as the Clippers are. So if it's anything less than that, it's really a failure. But you have to take it in strides right now because if they do make the playoffs next year, that's an upgrade compared to this year. And the Clippers actually get into the playoffs. Of course, they would have been there anyway if they would have been 100% healthy, but at the same time they weren't, so there's no excuses for them as well. So I expect both teams to be in it next year, of course, but this year is definitely different without neither one of them in it, just because of how the playoffs is going so far. It's kind of crazy with all these series, whether injuries are happening. Now every series seems to be very interesting, of course, besides the Nets and the Celtics, because that one's actually over. The Celtics just put their foot down on the Nets' throat and never let up. And now the Celtics are out of now the Nets are out of breath. Now they're gone. So that's probably the most disappointing series of it all, of the whole playoffs. But I mean, hey, it is what it is now. But pretty much every series is interesting, to a degree. And I think both LA teams would have made the playoffs even more interesting, of course, shaking things up a little bit more, because I think they would have gave teams a little bit more of a challenge. As I said, if the Clippers were playing the Warriors in the first round, that would be way more interesting than them playing against the Denver Nuggets with a Jokic who's boring as hell to look at, and a Jamal Murray who seems like Jamal Murray is never going to come back anytime soon. You think the ACL injury had, you think his leg or something like that got amputated or something, because it seems like he hasn't played in the last 2 years, I believe, what I'm saying? And I'm not saying anything bad about Jamal Murray or anything like that, but I definitely thought he would have been back maybe by now, like at the start of the playoffs or something like that. I'm kind of surprised he hasn't came back by now. He must have completely tore the ACL a lot worse than I thought he would. He did, because like I said, by now I thought he would have came back, going into at least the first round of the playoffs. I thought he is that well advanced in his progression and everything, but apparently he hasn't. Apparently his injury is a little bit worse than what we thought it was or anything like that, because they definitely are missing him right now. But it definitely be a better series if they were playing a team like the Clippers or something like that, or like if the Suns were playing a team like the Clippers, and let's say the Warriors were playing a team like the Lakers. Lakers in the first round. That would definitely be more interesting. So, but it's not that's not the way it is. So we can't harp on that too much. But, we'll definitely see what these teams do next year. But as for this year, of course, it's over for them. But wishful thinking, only thing we could have with those two teams at this point. But definitely better things to come next year, hopefully for both. But hey, that's my take on everything. Leave any comments in the comment section as always. And hey, Khaliis out.